Hi, my name is Jorge Monreal and I am going to explain the male reproductive system. Here in the image we can see the parts of the male reproductive system. This includes the testes, which produce the sperm, the epididymis, the vas deferens, the seminal vesicle, which is responsible of the production of part of the semen, the prostate gland, the urethra, the penis, which is the sexual organ of the male, and the scrotum, that is a sac where the testes are. Now I am going to explain the path that the sperm follows from the testes to the urethra. The sperm is produced in the testes, then it goes to the epididymis. When the sperm leaves the epididymis, it is stored inside the vas deferens. Then it goes to the seminal vesicle, whose function I already explained. After it reaches the prostate gland, that also adds secretions to the semen. Then it moves to the ejaculatory duct that connects to the urethra, and then it leaves the body.
GnRH stimulates the production of FSH and LH, which act on the testes to start making a spermatozoa and to develop secondary sex characteristics in the male. In turn, the testes production of testosterone and the hormone inhibit the release of GnRH and FSH and LH in a negative feedback loop. The hormones involved in this process are GnRH, which is produced in the hypothalamus region of the brain and has the function of stimulating the synthesis and secretion of the two gonadotropins. FSH is synthesized and secreted by the gonadotropic cells of the pituitary gland, and it stimulates testicular growth and enhances the production of the androgen binding protein by the Sertoli cells. LH is produced in the pituitary gland, and it stimulates testosterone production from the cells in the testes. Testosterone is produced by the gonads, and it plays a key role in the development of male reproductive tissues as well as promoting secondary sexual characteristics.
Hi, I'm gonna describe or identify the parts of the external female genitalia. The external female genitalia are composed of the clitoris, labia majora, labia minora, the opening of the vagina, the opening of the urethra, the anus, and the mons pubis. Now we're gonna label the parts of the reproductive system of the female and describe the function of each. And here we have the ovaries. The ovaries are in charge of produce out the oocyte and the proximal egg to get fertilized. And then we have the oviducts here. Also known as fallopian tubes. The fallopian tubes are in charge of transporting the oocyte to the uterus. Here in the fallopian tubes occurs the fertilization. And now we have here the uterus. The uterus can hold a newborn baby and about 2 kilos approximately. And then we have the cervix. The function of the cervix is the entrance of the sperm and also the exit of the blood caused by the menstruation. And here we have the endometrium. Here in the endometrium occurs the implantation. All this process begins in the ovaries. The ovaries produce an oocyte, then the oocyte goes through the fallopian tubes, and in the cervix the sperm enters. The sperm goes through all of this, and the egg goes to all of this, and here the sperm and the oocyte met each other, and the fertilizations occurs here. Then the fertilized oocyte or cigoto travels through all of this until here in the endometrium gets planted, and in the uterus is in charge of hold the cigoto. And here in the uterus, in the lining endometrium or the endometrium, the oocyte or zygote or fecundated oocyte is implanted. The uterus can hold a developing baby. And the vagina. The vagina is right here and is in charge to join the cervix to the outside of the. Now we're going to talk about the ovarian cycle and uterine cycle. First of all, the ovarian cycle. The ovarian cycle begins with the follicular phase. The follicular phase, the masterminds of this reproductive process of the female is the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary. The hypothalamus is in charge of release a hormone called gonadotropin releasing hormone, GnRH. And this hormone, the anterior pituitary reacts to these hormones and start releasing the follicle stimulatory hormone, FSH, and the luteinizing hormone, LH. Before puberty, these hormones are releasing in our body in a normal way, but after puberty, these hormones are released in pulses. The pulses determines the amount of these hormones, FSH and LH. These hormones are in charge, or the main purpose of these hormones are to help the ovarian follicles grow faster. And this is the follicle. The follicle is made of the primary oocyte. The primary oocyte is surrounded by the granulosa cells and the theca cells. Now, the theca cells react to the luteinizing hormone LH and produce androstenedione. Meanwhile, the granulosa cells react to the FSH hormone and produce aromatase. The androstenedione and the aromatase produce 17B estradiol, this also known as estrogen. And the estrogen produce the follicle growth. And during the follicle growth months, so that a negative feedback signal is sent to the anterior pituitary and stop the releasing of the LH and FSH. And this causes the follicles to stop growing and die off.
Okay, now we're going to talk about the ovulation. After all the follicles died off because of the diminutions on the end of the FSH and LH hormones, only one is left. This is called the dominant follicle. Okay, as this follicle continues growing, it keeps releasing estrogen. So the increase in estrogen now sends a positive feedback to the pituitary gland, and it makes it more responsible to GnRH. This pituitary gland consumes all its energy into releasing the last of the FSH and LH hormones, so the ovulation can be done. The ovulation in itself is just the releasing of the oocyte from the ovarian follicle. Here is the ovarian follicle, it breaks, so the oocyte is released. All of this happens approximately 1 or 2 days before the actual ovulation.
Now we're going to talk about the menstrual cycle. While this is happening in the ovarians and in the uterus, is happening the uterine cycle. The uterine cycle begins with the menstruation. And the menstruation, in short words, is the endometrial lining, the old endometrial lining shirt, and this is the menstrual period, and this causes the flow to get out of the body. And Other phase of the uterine cycle is the proliferative phase. The proliferative phase is during this phase the estrogen levels are increasing, so that thickening of the endometrium is getting thicker, the endometrial glands grow, and the spiral arteries appears. Also, the cervical mucus become more hospitable for the sperm, and this optimizes the chance for fertilization. This lasts about day 11 and day 15.
Okay, now we're going to talk about the luteal phase of the ovarian cycle. Okay, now that the oocyte has left the interior follicle, it now becomes our corpus luteum. This is made up of granulosa cells and theca cells, where they are luteinized by the hormone LH. Okay, so the theca cells continue producing androstenedione, and the granulosa cells keep converting it into 17-B estradiol, which we already know is estrogen. So now that the LH hormone has reduced because the oocyte is gone, this causes the activity of the enzyme P450-SCC to increase. So it converts the cholesterol into a hormone called pregnenolone, which is a precursor of progesterone. Now that the progesterone is greater than estrogen. Why? Because the theca cells produce progesterone, it inhibits the pituitary gland from making up the LH hormone and the FSH hormone. And the granulosa cells produce a hormone called inhibin, and it inhibits the same pituitary gland from producing FSH. So now, without those two hormones, the levels of estrogen are really low. And because of the decrease in estrogen and the increase of progesterone, the progesterone sends signals to the endometrium, and it makes it receptive to implantation of a fertilized gamete. Hi, well, while all the luteal phase is happening in the ovarian cycle, in the uterine cycle, the secretory begins. So in this phase, the spiral arteries grow longer and the uterine glands secrete more mucus, which makes the cervix mucus a lot more thicker, and the fertilization window which means the fertilization window is closing, because the mucus is so thick the sperm can get past it, so the fertilization is obviously diminishing. Okay, this is the cervical mucus thickens, makes it less hospitable for sperm, and the corpus luteum is replaced by the corpus albicans. This thing does not produce any hormones, which means the estrogen and the progesterone are going to diminish. While they are the lowest, the spiral arteries collapse and the functional layer of the endometrium slots off, which means menstruation. And what means menstruation? The whole new menstrual cycle is about to begin. This happens after the day 15, when the window for fertilization starts to close. Okay, now for the conclusion. This is the cycle of 28 days. This is where the menstrual cycle begins. During the first 14 days of the cycle, the follicular phase happens. The length can vary. Then on the 14th day, this cannot vary. At the end of the follicular phase is the ovulation due to the estrogen-induced LH surge, which means that this is due to the LH increasing, which was caused by the increase in estrogen. After the ovulation, the luteal phase takes place, which is always 14 days before the menstruation happens again. This is due to the increase in the hormone progesterone. In the uterus, from the day 1 to 14, the menstrual and proliferative phase occur, and from the day 15 to 28, the secretory phase happens. And it's a cycle that repeats each month. Hi, my name is Monse, and I'm going to explain the birth control methods. Okay, the first one is abstinence. In this method, the person stops any sexual contact with her or his partner. This could be 100% efficient against pregnancy, but it is not 100% efficient in preventing STDs, because only complete abstinence can do that for us, because STDs can still transmit through oral sex, anal sex, and even the rubbing of intimate parts. Okay. The vasectomy, in this process, the tubes that inject the sperm into the semen in the man are cut or blocked so the ovule inside the woman can get fecundated. In the tubal ligation, this is a feminine procedure, a surgical procedure, and once a month the ovaries generate an ovule. Once it is created, it moves to the fallopian tubes where it waits so the man, so the partner, can fecundate it. In this process, the tubes are cut or blocked so the sperm can't reach the egg. Okay, oral contraception. This method is called the pill. It is a pill that a woman has to take for 21 days each month, except on her period, and they are hormones that are called estrogen and progesterone that stop the process of ovulation. Contraceptive implant. This is also a feminine birth control method that is basically a flexible plastic tube that is put under the skin on the forearm of the woman. It is called commonly Nexplanon, and it frees the hormone progesterone that completely stops the process of ovulation. It usually lasts for about 3 years, and after you can remove it and you are completely fertile again. Okay, the IUD is called an intrauterine device. It is shaped like a T and is flexible, and there are two types of this method. There are the hormonal and the non-hormonal. There are 6 types of this device, and they are called like feminine names, but I don't remember them. There are 5 of them that are hormonal, and they stop. They also delay or stop the process of ovulation. And there is one that is non-hormonal, that it is made of copper, and it blocks the way to the fallopian tube so the sperm can get any closer to the eggs. These can last from 3 to 12 years and are the most commonly used form of birth control by all women of all ages. The diaphragm is a latex pouch that is inserted up the vagina, and as far as it can go, it completely blocks the cervix and the fallopian tubes so the sperm can't get any closer to the eggs. It has to be used with spermicide because it is not completely safe that the sperm won't move around it. So it is used with spermicide, so any remnant semen that goes around it gets killed off by the spermicide. The male condom. The male condom is a thin piece of fabric that is around the erect penis so the sperm can get to the egg. And the female condom is basically the same. It is inserted up the vagina, and its objective is to block the way from the sperm to the eggs also. Coitus interruptus. This is a procedure that consists of the man removing his penis out of the vagina before he ejaculates so the sperm can fecundate the egg. This is one of the most practiced birth controls, but one of the less effective because it requires a lot of patience, a lot of skill, a lot of practice, and it is usually not done correctly. So that's why a lot of unwanted pregnancies happen, because this is the most used. Okay, natural family planning. This method consists of the woman studying herself and her menstrual cycle, her daily temperature, and her cervix mucus, because the woman has to study when in her cycle she is fertile and when she is not. And that way she can either avoid pregnancy or the contrary, if she wants to get pregnant, well, she knows how many days and in which ones she is fertile, so she either decides to have a sexual intercourse or to avoid it. And the morning after pill. There is 2 types of morning after pill. The one that is made with levonorgestrel and misoprostol acetate. These ones are mostly a method of emergency contraception because they should not be used as birth control methods because they involve a lot of dangerous hormones that stop. For example, the levonorgestrel delays or slows the ovulation process, so it's not that. It is effective if you take it quickly after the sexual act, but it is not as effective as the other one. This one completely stops the process of ovulation. It stops the progesterone in your body from generating, so it kind of leaves you unfertile for a couple of days. So it is a very dangerous process, and it should not be taken more than 3 or 4 times a year, because it can leave permanent damage in your female reproduction system. Okay, so only 3 of these procedures are completely protect you from STDs. They are abstinence, male condom, and female condom, because all the others have nothing to do with the way that the diseases transmit. They are transmitted by skin contact, and these 3 are the only ones that prevent them. 8, 9, and 1.